So let's take a look at another Games Workshop discount box release. This time we've got boarding patrols for the Sisters, Thousand Sons and Custodes, plus a couple of really big paint sets, slightly reduced from Games Workshop's normal prices. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today I thought we'd take a look over Games Workshop's 40k releases of the week, and also talk about their two big paint sets, and talk about the discounts that they offer, at least in comparison with buying them separately, admittedly at Games Workshop's fairly high prices. While we're on the subject of 40k releases as well, I thought at the end of the video I'd just talk about the giveaway that I'm going to be doing for Lionel Johnson. Stick around till the end if you'd like to hear a bit more about how to enter for that. So today we're talking Games Workshop releases and prices, and these ones are going to be going up for pre-order on Saturday the 1st of April. Then after that, as per Games Workshop's usual deal, they'll go on general sale a week after, if there's any of them left I suppose. The Boarding Patrol box sets are one-time runs. When Games Workshop sells out of them, they're gone. Some of the popular ones like the Tower Orcs have gone very quickly once they went on sale, and not that many have been given to discount retailers, which is a bit unfortunate. If you want to try and snag these from someone who discounts 40k, I'll probably be getting up fairly early on Saturday to try and make sure that you're there. At least in the UK they go on sale at 10 AM normally. It's usually fairly close to that around the world, though individual regions vary a bit. In any case, this week we've got Boarding Patrol Adeptus Sororitas, Adeptus Custodes, Thousand Sons, and then two rather big paint sets with 30 paints in each, a Citadel Battle Ready one and a Citadel Parade one. First up, let's look at the 40k box sets. First up, we've got Boarding Patrol Adeptus Sororitas. It's £85, €110 or $140, and that does put it in line with the most expensive boarding patrols. Games Workshop does vary the price of these in line with how much they'd cost separately. When I did my Boarding Patrol comparison video, you guys rated this one as one of the more interesting at 3.9 out of 5 stars. In it you get the multi-part Canoness, 10 multi-part Battle Sisters, 10 Repentia, and 5 Celestian Sacrosants. In general they're all pretty competitive units for the Sisters of Battle at the moment, hard-hitting melee, a few obsec troops, and a standard Canoness who's a very common competitive choice in armies, bearing some nice warlord traits and relics, and having that handy Word of the Emperor fighting debuff to make enemies fight last. In the box there's round about 430 points per models, a bit on the low side for the boarding patrols, a bit sad seeing as they cost so much, but the discount compared with buying these separately is fairly decent, 37% off, maybe on the upper end of Games Workshop's combat patrol discounts that they often give out. Overall I'd say it's a pretty helpful unit mix. I would say that there's some overlap with the combat patrol though, as you get standard Battle Sisters, Repentia and a Canoness in that. I do feel like this and the combat patrol wouldn't be the worst start though to a Sisters of Battle army. At least the Canoness and the Battle Sisters are multi-part kits, whereas the Combat Patrol ones are monopos, so you are getting some additional value and choices. Overall doesn't seem too bad, perhaps a little bit more pricey than I'd ideally like, but I was expecting this one to be a bit on the more expensive side. From one of the most expensive boarding patrols to one of the cheapest, at £65, €85 or $110, you can net yourself Boarding Patrol Adeptus Custodes. This one, if anything, was a little bit less than I was expecting, in line with that first Space Marine release one. And in this you get Trajan Valoris, 5 Custodian Guard that also allows you to build things like the Captain on Foot and the Vexilla, and 5 Alarus Terminators. When this one was announced it maybe didn't have quite as much hype as some of the other Custodes discount boxes they've had. You guys only rated it 3.3 out of 5 by your vote. To be honest, I feel like enthusiasm was kind of dampened for this one because it contains Trajan Valoris and has a bit of overlap with the Christmas Battle Force box set. I think maybe a lot of people were eyeing up the Custodes Combat Patrol and wondering whether it would add in nicely alongside the Christmas set. At the time people voted on that as well, we didn't know the price. I feel like that would make it a little bit of a nicer deal, at least in some people's eyes, knowing how much cheaper it is compared with say the Sisters one. In general though, I feel like if you miss the Christmas box and you don't have Trajan Valoris already, it's a pretty great deal. Custodes are generally a very cheap army in 40k to get into normally, and this one gets you 615 points worth of models in the box, more or less. Pretty excellent value for $110 for Games Workshop. Around 5 points for every dollar invested is far better than you usually get with their kits. Still though, even with the lowest price, the discount is a bit lower than some of them, but not enormously. You're still getting around 32% off. I feel like this box is quite a solid one. It's just a bit of a shame it doesn't combine with the Christmas box a little bit better. I feel like people might have liked to see either the Blade Champion or some Custodian Wardens in there to shake things up a bit. Next up we have Rubrics the box set. Boarding Patrol Thousand Sons is £70, €90 or $115. Again, this is one of the slightly cheaper ones, around the same price as the Death Guard one. This one's a weirdly simple one with 20 Rubric Marines and 2 Spawn. In the UK at least, the box set works out to be just very slightly cheaper than 2 individual boxes of Rubric Marines, so you'd be getting a small discount if you just wanted 2 of them, and then you have the Spawn models thrown in as a bonus, I suppose. Again, you guys weren't super enthused by this one, rating it 3.3 out of 5. I feel like maybe it's a little bit underrated at this though. There's about 500 points of models in the box, which is fairly high. It's about a 35% discount overall, even if the Spawn models are generally considered fairly bad value as Games Workshop models go. £15 each is a bit pricey, even if you can potentially kit bash another one out of the set. Still though, I think focusing so clearly on just one unit is actually kind of a good thing for these boarding patrols. The box set just combines very well with the combat patrol. That one has no rubrics in and no spawn, so between those two sets you'd have quite a well-rounded army. Thankfully this one again doesn't have any Zangors in, which they have liked to put in Thousand Sons box sets en masse in the past. Overall I feel like this one's a pretty easy decision for most people. If you want cheaper rubrics it's great, if you don't it's easily passed up, and if you were starting Thousand Sons from scratch, I feel like this box, the Combat Patrol, and one of those Exalted Sorcerer sets, that would make a very good entry point to have a pretty well-rounded army of most of their decent units straight away. Finally, alongside the 40k stuff, I was interested that there's a couple of discount paint sets going as well. They seem to have divided these up into a Citadel Battle Ready one with a whole bunch of base paints plus some shades, and then there's a Citadel Parade one which is a whole bunch of layer paints, which sounds like it aims to be an expansion over this base paint one. In any case, the Battle Ready one is £80, €105, and should be $130 US. In this one, you get 22 base paints, the higher pigment ones that are most aimed for putting base coats on miniatures, as the name would imply, and then 8 of Games Workshop's shade paints, which are basically washes really. They include some pretty useful ones like Norn Oil and Agrak's Earthshade, both of which are pretty handy general purpose ones which could be used over quite a lot of bases. Overall the colour selection does seem pretty decent, there's most standard colours featured here. Overall it maybe feels it's a slightly more muted palette, lots of slightly darker hues to start from and then highlight up, and it does feel like a pretty reasonable entry if you're unsure and you don't want to pick out your own paints. I feel like the discount on this one though is just a little bit questionable. If you bought these paints individually from Games Workshop it'd cost £100, so you're only getting around about 19% off compared with buying individually. It's definitely not awful if you're a bit unsure what paints you'll need and you want to have a wide array of colours available to you, but I feel like the deal only really becomes worth it if you're going to be using over 4 out of 5 of all of the paints in this set. If there's some that you just basically use rarely or not at all, then you've probably lost out. For me, I think I'd certainly spend less if I just selected the colours that I wanted and bought the ones that you actually need for your army's colour schemes. That way you're not committing to buying any paints that you might well not use, even if they are discounted. Still though, maybe doesn't seem terrible for people who just want a whole bunch of colours to try colour schemes out on models and not be limited by the paints that they've bought. Could be an okay starting point for people who are willing to splash a bit of money on a big paint set. Then launching alongside this is the Citadel Parade paint set. This one is £70, €90 or $115. This one gets you a set of 30 layer paints, which are more like the standard acrylics that they'd often had in the past. They're most typically aimed for doing things like highlighting up hard edges and things, but I feel like they're perhaps a bit more versatile than the base paints. You could water them down and use them as glazes, or dry brush them on things, and the selection that they're offering here is in a lot more vibrant hues. The base set seems to mainly be slightly more drab undercoat type colours, and then these are the things that are aims to try and make the miniatures really pop. A pretty nice colour variety here I think, but again at the price it costs it's not the most huge deal in the world, only 17% off. And again, unless money is really not the hugest deal with spending on this kind of thing, I'd be more tempted to get the ones that I want for value, as you basically have to use over 5 out of 6 of the paints in this set to make it worth it, and you might just not get through some of the obscure colours that aren't relevant to your army's colour scheme. Let me know what you make of these discount paint sets and 40k boxes though. Would you be tempted to pick up any of these, and why? Finally, while we're on the subject of shiny new Warhammer miniatures, I thought I'd just quickly mention the Auspex Tactics channel giveaway for next month, which will be for another new shiny Primarch. With Lionel Johnson following Angron into 40k proper, I thought that we'd do the 1st of May giveaway for the channel to be 6 copies of his miniature, as it seems very likely that he'll be released by then. At the moment we don't know how Games Workshop's going to be releasing him. He might be a single miniature, or he might be in a big box set. If the latter, then you'll also get that as well. To be honest, if he does just turn out to be a single miniature release, I might well up the number of models in the giveaway. but I'll commit to at least 6 either way for now. For the channel giveaways, they work the same way each month. There's 2 equal ways to enter, both links down in the video description. Either you can support the channel on Patreon for any amount. It is what allows me to keep on making videos like this quite so regularly and keep all the Warhammer 40k news flowing as the main thing that I do. Otherwise, the alternate way to enter is to support the channel on social media, subscribe to Auspex Tactics here on YouTube, like the Facebook page linked down in the video description, and then to actually enter the draw on the 1st of May, a giveaway post will appear on the Facebook page. You respond to that giveaway post with a picture of any 40k mini or imagery with your name and the date handwritten within the same photo to help ward off Facebook bots and spammers. Then when I've got all the entries in, I take the Facebook entries and the Patreon entries, put them all into a random number generator, pick out the 6 winners, and then announce the results in a channel update video which appears on YouTube around about the 4th of the month. At this point, you've still got the chance to enter for the Vash Tour one as well. The April one will be for 4 copies of his big box set. The entry will be on the 1st of April and the giveaway on the 4th as per normal. In any case, the links for the Patreon page and the Facebook page are down in the video description if you would like to check them out. In any case, let me know what you make of these new 40k box sets. Would you be tempted to pick up any of the boarding patrols, and do the paint sets feel like a good deal to you? Looking forward to having a read over all your comments, and an absolutely massive thank you for listening. I'll hope to see you guys next time.